Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fabulous Women Podcast Studio. I'm Kim Allen. I'm your host. I'm so excited today, of all days. I even dressed up, right? Because this is where people come to meet wonderfully fabulous women in many, many different industries from many different walks in life. And I really believe in doing this because I use my platform for a lot of reasons. But number one, because I love women. Number two, I support women. And number three, I promote women. So I'm going to introduce you to a very special person. This is Doris Jackson-Shazier. Hi, Doris.
Hey, Kim. So excited to be here today.
I'm more excited than you are. I'm more excited because my audience doesn't know that I've been Doris for a while, but also I have conversations with my guests before we actually do the podcast. And I always find out just the most amazing stories about them and the most amazing things. And you're going to get an earful today from Doris. The name of this episode for everyone is The Audacity to Reframe, Turning Setbacks into Stepping Stones. So you can imagine, are you on your seat yet? Because you should be. All right. Doris, before we begin, may I kindly tell the audience about your background so that I can set the stage?
I would love that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, everyone. So Doris has quite a background, and I'm really excited to talk about it. She is CEO of Shazier Coaching and Consultant, right? She is a certified coach. She's also director of operations for, I always say it wrong. You say it for me.
Candy.
Candy, because there's two I's in it.
Yes.
Right? And it throws me off because I'm so literal when it comes to that kind of stuff. But anyway, Doris is director of operations, which is so impressive. She is a former senior director of field leadership development at Cracker Barrel. And a couple of the really great things that we're going to be talking about. She is a one-time author about to become a two-time author. So we're going to talk about that. Yay! And finally, I'm so proud of her. Obviously, she has a bachelor's degree from, is it Florida State University?
That is correct.
Yes. Are they the Gators?
No, that's the University of Florida.
Oh,
I'm a Knoll.
What that is? Yes. Well, wait to hear this, everyone. I'm so proud of Doris because she has finished her master's degree and she's going to be walking May 9th.
May 9th.
Right outside of Philadelphia at Eastern University. She will have receive her MBA in organizational leadership. So I'm so proud of you for a lot of things, Doris, but because you're going to find out that Doris does like a billion things in her life. And she somehow finds time to do other things like, let's talk about you being an author real quick. So what is the name? Tell me about your first book, and then we're going to talk about your second book, and then you can tell me when that's coming out.
All right, awesome. So my first book is Raising Justice, Lessons Learned Through Motherhood. And so really I explore all the different things that motherhood taught me and how motherhood really was my first leadership position. And so Raising Justice came out last year and it's still available on Amazon. My next book that will drop at the beginning of 2026 is Pieces to Peace. Okay. And really, I am sharing with the readers, how do you overcome corporate and COVID? So I tell a little bit about my story. It's maybe memoir/guide, but I really share my Pieces to Peace framework and how do you properly heal from toxic work environments?
Yes. Wow. Well, I'll probably buy the first copy because I'm always fascinated by that. I never get into anyone's personal life on the podcast, but am I allowed to ask you to share your children and their ages? Because I'm looking in the camera at everyone. First of all, anyone that's not watching this, if you're listening, we dressed up for each other today and we look so good that you need to get on and watch us in action. Okay. But if you could just tell us, because once you hear her story, we don't need to vote for her for something. So go ahead, Doris.
All right. So most people are fascinated with my parenting experience, right? I have a really cool experience in terms of I have children in all the different stages all at the same time. And so my oldest is 21 years old. She, works full time in her master's program and it's just out in the world exploring. And then I have my 18-year-old son who has just graduated high school. So he's entering the workforce. I have a 12-year-old seventh grader who keeps it very interesting. Middle school is the most interesting age. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. And then I have a a 6-year-old baby genius who's already doing middle school math and reading at middle school level, who keeps me really, really busy, very, very curious. And so, yeah, I have 6, 12, 18, and 21.
And a husband.
And a husband.
And you do everything else. You know, I'm actually having anxiety over everything that you do because you do it simultaneously. And having children when they're close in age, that's stressful. But when you have that many spaced out, that's also stressful, right?
Because it becomes a marathon, not a sprint. Like, it's not like it's over at the same time. I feel like I've been raising children forever.
Oh my God. Well, when they turn 18, they leave. Just get used to it because the silence is deafening. You don't have to be driving them anywhere. So anyway, well, that's impressive. That alone, we could end the podcast right there because Doris has done it all, right? Okay, but we're going to actually get into the podcast questions right now. So my first question that I have for you, Doris, is this one. When has failure taught you about God, grit, and grace that success never could?
Ooh, so that's a good one. For me, what I learned in failure that I don't think you really get to experience in success is that God's favor doesn't disappear. You can feel God's presence when things are going right. And you're like, thank you, God. I know God is on my side. But sometimes when things go wrong, you trick yourself into thinking that now somehow God's favor has disappeared. And so when everything didn't go right, when I found myself trying to, I was in positions where I needed to prove my worth and who I was, I had to remind myself that God's favor didn't leave me because I experienced hurt, disappointment, or failure. It's still there. Sometimes those things are redirection. And in those moments where things just didn't go right, I found myself in the hospital during COVID. I almost died. I was in the hospital for 7 days, and God's favor was still there with me.
Wow.
And so that's what you learn in failure that you don't really learn in success.
Yes. Okay, we can actually just stop and just write a whole book about it. All right, second question. When life didn't go as planned for you, what helped you keep believing that it still had purpose? You're so driven, Doris.
Yeah, well, I think, again, what's special about my mindset is, again, the power of the reframe and how I look at things. And so what I've recognized really early on is that detours still lead to destinations, right? Like, even if you go off the course that you thought you were supposed to be on, you can still end up at the same destination. And so when life hasn't went planned, it hasn't went the way I thought it should go, and I found myself asking, why me? I stop it, I reframe, and I remind myself that just because I hit a detour doesn't mean I won't hit the destination.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, I have a third question in the bucket of faith, failure, and grit, but I'm just going to say it because I think you just answered it. But when success didn't come on your timeline, you turned disappointment into direction. And again, what inner conversation helped you do that? And you just explained that. Yeah. But I just think that I don't even know how you can top what you just said.
Yeah, no, it's all in the reframe. And I'm like, okay, this is a detour, but it still leads to a destination.
Yeah.
You're still on the same path. You're still going where you need to go. This is just a detour. Yeah. And I have to remind myself consistently. I definitely do a lot of self-coaching.
Oh, I can tell. I think you should be a reverend. Add that to your list. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just like, okay, now this is what you should be doing, Doris, because you're amazing. You're so willing to try so many things. All right. So the next bucket of questions, again, it's toward what you're talking about, redefining success. So my first question from that bucket is, you often talk about mistimed success. What does that phrase mean to you? And how did your perspective on timing evolve as your journey unfolded?
All right. So mistimed success means getting what you prayed for before you were ready for it. So sometimes we're asking for things. We want to be in places. In my career, I genuinely believe I experienced altitude sickness. I had gotten promoted several times. I deserved every room I walked into, but there were still things or opportunities and ways in which I needed to grow in order to be successful in some of those places. And so I think sometimes we have these moments where we start to get imposter syndrome or question whether we belong somewhere. And sometimes it's just a little bit of mistimed success, meaning we still have a gap there. We still have opportunity to grow, but we're getting what we prayed for. And so how do you catch it up? Or maybe you're in you got the promotion, but you're not necessarily emotionally ready
Right.
for the situation. So that's what mistimed success for me is. And over time, what I've learned is you deserve to be anywhere that you want to be. You deserve the things that happen to you. You have to give yourself the grace to grow in it.
Right. Wow, that is so true. I think you should be reverend. Okay, with every
Okay,
question.
okay.
Okay. All right. So my next question is, how can women embrace this mistimed success instead of resenting it?
Recognizing that, delays are not denial. Again, detours still lead to destination. You're not being punished when things don't go your way. When God is trying to grow you, sometimes it feels awkward. It's just like if your feet grow in shoes, they get tight, they get uncomfortable. You're all wobbly when you walk. It's the same thing in life. Like when you're growing, sometimes it doesn't feel as good. And so recognizing that you could be in a mistimed success moment. You can be in a moment where you're just catching up emotionally to the position that you're at doesn't mean you don't deserve to be there.
Right. Wow. Okay. So if you could go back and whisper one sentence to your younger self, the one who thought that she was behind, what would you tell her about success?
You're not behind, you're being built. You're being built. Like every lesson, everything that's happening, they're all preparation. Some of the situations that I run into now, I notice that it was preparation for the next thing that was coming up. And it's like, oh, I've seen that before. I've experienced that before. And
Right.
so I was never behind. I was just being built.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pausing and I'm looking in the camera at everyone. Okay. This is not a rehearsed podcast, and your answers are like the best ever. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. All
Okay.
right. Okay. So, all right. The next bucket of questions that I have for you have to do with resilience and reframing.
Okay.
So my first question is, and it's very obvious, Doris, that you've turned setbacks into stepping stones. Can you walk us through one powerful reframe moment that changed everything for you?
The one that stands out to me the most, and it goes back quite a few years, is when I found myself pregnant in college. And so in my book, Raising Justice, and I love to tell people how it begins and also how it ends, because the meat of it really is in the middle. That book really begins outside of what I thought was an abortion clinic. Because I was the first person to graduate high school in my family, the first person to attend college. And here I am, sophomore year, on full scholarship, 19 and pregnant, by someone who I knew that I would not be with. And it felt devastating. It felt like life was over. And I go to what I think was an abortion clinic, turns out to be a pregnancy help center. Didn't realize that. And they counseled me and they told me to name the baby, to name the baby. And I named her Justice. And that's her name to this day. I named her at 10 weeks pregnant. Whether she was a girl or a boy, she would be Justice. But it was a reframe. It was, now that I named this baby, it changed the way I completely looked at the predicament that I was in.
Right.
And by naming her Justice, it gave me fuel, because she was going to be my justice. I was going to prove to everyone that I'm still going to do all the things I planned on doing, and I'm going to do it with her.
Wow.
And so instead of utilizing or thinking about it as a crutch, as this devastating moment, I thought about it as fuel. Now you're responsible for this person's life. Now you have a reason to finish college. Now you have a reason to interview for the jobs. And so I think, and when I look at my whole life, that was probably the most powerful reframe for me. And it set the stage for other things. And it happened at 19.
Wow. I have goosebumps. I am just shocked at what you said. Your story started on the outside of an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
really so, so powerful. Well, obviously you did the right thing and God bless justice, right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, Doris, what practices help you reframe disappointment or shame into strategy? So, again, we're talking about justice, but other disappointments in your life, or and I hate shame, but we all have shame in
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
So, how do you talk to yourself and reframe that? What strategy do you use?
The first thing I do is pause.
Okay.
Pause.
All right.
Because sometimes we get just physically, we get ourselves worked up and
Absolutely.
we're hyperventilating, we're not getting oxygen, we can't think straight. There's power in just the pause.
Absolutely.
Literally, I become still, I stop talking, I shut up, and I just allow myself to breathe, like pause, and then I breathe through and process. And I have like qualifiers or filters in which I examine things that
Mm,
happen to me. And
right.
the first thing I ask myself is it true?
Mhm.
Meaning, is this a fact or a feeling?
Mhm.
I pause and then I want to know, is this a fact or a feeling? And if I'm feeling, I'm allowed to feel it. And sometimes I'll put a cap on how long I can feel it.
Right.
Is it factual? Have I added to the story? Have I created a narrative around it? But is it so I process that and then I pray.
Mm.
So I
Wow.
pause, process, pray. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I love that. I love that philosophy that you have. Can
Yeah.
you remember the moment you realized that what looked like an ending was actually a beginning? Now, I know you're going to say that with justice because I feel I could probably finish your sentences right now, but
Yeah.
that's so obvious. I mean, look at, and you're such a success because of that particular moment. Is that the biggest moment, or were there other moments as well in your
No,
life?
there were other moments. I would say the day I left corporate America, like
Mm,
at some point it felt like an end. Well, I was more focused on it being a ending when it happened. And I'm like, okay, so I'm leaving here. I'm like, I don't think I'm ever gonna go back to work for someone. You know, I focused on it being an ending. And then shortly after, I realized that, I was being freed. Like I was free. Like here I am with, all the talent. You can't take away my experience. You can't take away the way I leverage it. I know what my strengths are. I know what you promoted me 5 times to be able to do, which was to lead high performing teams. And
right,
now here's an opportunity for me to leverage that strength for myself.
right,
And it's something so very powerful when you learn how to directly leverage your strengths without having to utilize a job. When
right.
you can cut out the middleman, because at that point the job is a middleman. When you
Yes.
can directly service your clients and people utilizing your God-given strengths. And so it felt like the end of something, but it was truly the beginning and the birth of Shazier Coaching and Consulting and my ability to now start leveraging my strengths directly.
Okay, so this is an interesting next question as a follow-up to that. So let me ask the question first. How did you learn to give yourself permission to grow beyond the version of you that survives? So you talked about what you did, which is you. I mean, I know you well enough to know this is Doris in action. But how did you give your permission to do that? Because other people don't do that, Doris.
Yeah.
Did you even think that you were giving yourself permission, or did you just do it?
Yeah, I don't know how intentional it was, but I will tell you that one of the things that we have to stop doing is stop romanticizing kind of like our survival story. What I did was it's like it happened, it's a part of my experience, but I start focusing on the lessons or how I can now leverage it
Right,
going forward. I
right,
don't sit in victimhood, I don't sit in what has happened to me, but I
right.
am grateful for the lessons and the ways that God has strengthened me and grown me. But I
Mhm.
don't romanticize it. Like I don't get caught up in it. It's like, okay, this is what I learned from it, and here's what I can do now. And
Yep.
so I think that's my way of giving myself permission in terms of it happened, you process it, you prayed over it, and then I know how to leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Separate the meats from the bones is what my grandmother used to say. And
Mhm.
it's like knowing, which parts to eat and which parts not to eat. And so I think that's my way of giving myself permission.
Yeah. And I identify with you with your upbringing because I was the first for everything as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, it was college. I was the first one. And then from there, I just took off being the first one for everything. And I think that for me, I'm not saying for you, but I have a feeling it's true. My grit has always been my permission. I didn't need permission from anyone. I just did it.
Yeah.
Right.
That audacity, right?
Audacity. Right. I'm so audacious and I'm proud of that. And I know you are.
Yes, I am.
You are very audacious. Oh my gosh. Okay. Love your answers. You're amazing. All right. So the next bucket, we're going to be talking about life lessons and personal growth. So my first question is, Doris, for the woman who feels like her dreams have been delayed, what truth would you want her to hold on to today?
Ooh, for the woman who feels like her dreams have been delayed, you are not late every day. And I'm going to repeat this, but just because you experience a detour, detours still lead to destinations. Yeah. Every chapter you've lived is equipping you for your future. Don't rush it. God is refining you. And one thing I would like to say is purpose doesn't expire. And sometimes I think we get caught up and think that, oh, we can't do certain. If it's your purpose, it doesn't expire. It's going to happen. You can always come back to it. You can always pick it back up. You'll always fall back on track. But purpose doesn't expire.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. I always heard something. Now, this is for people in the audience that believe that there's an afterlife, right? And I always I've heard this for a long time, that when someone that you love dies, that the distance between you who's still living and them who they're not living anymore, the distance really is only time. That's what it is. It's only time.
Exactly.
Right. But that actually is what you just said too, that if we have purpose and you're saying you're going to achieve that purpose, and it's what is the gap? Well, the gap is time. Right. But some people give up on their purpose though, unfortunately. Yeah. And I know that you haven't, for sure. I mean, you made it.
And I never will. I think once you understand that it doesn't expire,
yeah,
it gives you a different level of hopefulness, and you're just motivated in a different way.
Absolutely. So my next question is, as you've grown and evolved, and boy, have you, in the biggest way, what parts of your old story did you have to release to make room for who you were becoming?
I had to let go of proving myself to others, or like seeking that validation from other people.
Yes.
Earlier in my career, it was important for me to be validated by others. I wore my hair a certain way. I wore my makeup a certain way. I dressed a way because I felt that it was necessary in order to get into the rooms that I wanted to be in. I did a lot of code switching, speaking differently, the whole nine, just because I believe it was important in order to move up in the industry that I was in. And, you get to that age, and I think COVID was really something that helped me to pivot.
Right.
But I stopped trying to prove myself to others and recognize that who I was enough. I may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's flavor. Like, I don't need validation from everyone in order to do the things that I am purposed to do. So yeah, I had to let go of trying to prove myself.
So I want to back up. You said something, I've not heard the phrase before. Did you call it code switching?
Code switching.
Co-switching. Oh, code switching. Tell me what that is. I've not heard that before.
Okay, so very popular among minorities, but it is the practice of changing the way you speak, your diction, maybe your accent, in order to appeal to the majority group. So a lot of African Americans find themselves doing that often. So we won't use the same ebonics or language that we would typically comfortably use at home. When we go into other settings, we code switch. We speak differently to be accepted among other people. Right.
Okay. So that's interesting. I know that I have to do that because, so for anyone who cares, I went to an all-girls Catholic. I went to Catholic grade school, high school, and college because my family was Catholic. And so I went to an all-girls Catholic high school with nuns and priests. We were so repressed. And to this day, we swear like sailors. I think it's because we were repressed. So I have to change my language because even
you got the code switch as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right. But anyway, but I do know. I do know. I just never heard it called that. So that is actually a learning moment for me. So thank you.
And it's very exhausting to do because you don't get to really show up as your authentic self.
Right.
You're consistently evaluating and processing in your mind. You're not having a true conversation because you're picking your words and you're saying it differently. And so it's like you're doing double work just to show up in the same meeting where some of your peers can just say it the way they want to.
Right. And it's acceptable the way they're saying it.
Yes.
Whereas you're saying that you have to change that to go to the table. So talking about that, the last bucket is the corporate burnout and renewal. You experienced corporate burnout. What signs did you miss early on? And how would you advise other women to recognize them, Doris?
Well, I think the biggest sign that most women missed, and I missed as well, is we wear the badge of honor for working the long shifts. It's like, oh, I've been in here 10 days straight. I haven't even had a day off. And we see it as a badge of honor. And I think sometimes just not acknowledging that certain things aren't healthy is a problem. Creating environments where we're rallying people for doing behaviors that burn them out, that's a problem. So we, early in my career, we wore the badge of honor if you went so many days and you hadn't had a day off because it meant that you were dedicated. And you were focused. And so I think the biggest sign I ignore is that I put myself in cultures where burning people out was acceptable. Or it was a badge of honor, or you were shunned. Oh, you were shunned for taking the vacation time that was a part of your compensation plan. It's like, oh, you're always on vacation. No, I'm taking the 3 that I'm allotted. And you're shunned for that. And so pay attention to the culture. Pay attention if they rally the people who are up late, who are emailing after midnight, who are coming in on their days off, who are doing those things. It's the biggest miss, but it tells us all we need to know about the environment we're putting ourselves in, and we miss it.
Right. And I'm hoping that organizations are watching this podcast because it's not really that we are putting ourselves in the environment that cause burnout. Organizations, by design, create or tolerate negative environments that burn people out.
Yep.
Okay. So we're in the year 2025, almost 26, and that's still happening. So I don't understand that, right? At the end of the day. Okay. You actually just answered my next question, which was about, women and this badge of honor. And that's really tough because it is men and women. But women and all the statistics prove that we're still doing 2 jobs. We go home and the majority take care of the family and clean and do all that stuff. So that's really hard that mindset needs to shift over to, it's not a badge of honor. And you can think it's a badge of honor, but then you're going to be so burnt out that you can't work. And then what's that?
So burnt out that you can't do the job that has the most impact.
Yeah. And that's called unemployment.
Your children.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, okay. So my final question for you, Doris, is if you could leave listeners with one audacious reframe for 2025, actually, let's say we can even go into 2026 because we're so close. What would that be?
All right. And I think I've said this a couple times, but
every
ending, every delay, every disappointment, it's just a detour. Yeah. It's a divine edit. Let God rewrite the story.
Yes.
Let him rewrite the story. It makes for an interesting, think of it as a movie. It makes for the interesting details that lead up to a wonderful ending. But you're not restarting. Sometimes you're realigning.
Yes.
You survive things so that you can understand things on the other side, but see it as God is rewriting your story.
Absolutely. I love that. And also, when we listen to amazingly fabulous women like Doris, that grit, some people are born with it and some people get it at certain times in their life. But I think that grit is going to keep everyone on track toward their purpose, because if you have a purpose and you've not achieved the purpose yet, well, you're still on that journey. Just don't give up, right?
Yeah, don't give up.
You're such a wonderful example to so many women who like, again, I look back that, you're the first one in your family to graduate high school and keep going. I mean, no matter what happened to you, you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps and you kept going, and you gave your permission to do that. And look at you now. You're truly fabulous. So I want to thank you so much for having you on the podcast. And I want to wish you the best of luck with your second book. We're going to have, I haven't asked her yet, but I'm doing it publicly, that we're going to have Doris back on the podcast here. I want to hear about Pieces to Peace, correct?
Yes.
I said it right. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much. As I'm closing, I always thank my guests, because I could not do the podcast without all of you, and especially for Doris. And my ask of everyone who's watching this, especially when it comes to women, please pay it forward to them, because there was a time not that long ago when there were no laws to protect them, or no HR that was in place to protect women. So pioneering women had to kick down doors and kick through brick walls. That's just not necessary these days. So if there's someone in your orbit, someone coming up, or a peer female, support them in what they do, so that we just don't need to make it harder for each other. And always watch for my upcoming episodes. I have some more fabulous women that will be joining us. And if anyone sees my really cool pink logo that everyone loves, and I love it too, it does say at the bottom, to inspire today, to empower tomorrow. So I'm going to leave you with that. Until next time, everyone, stay fabulous.